Hi, and welcome to an RPM Telco webinar. Today we're going to be doing something a little different for a webinar. We're actually doing a webinar about agency, customer, and suppliers process integration. So it's going to be a webinar tailored fit to a kind of special use case for one of our enhancements. We call them enhancements in RPM. They'd be things that require our API that just makes workflow a little easier in some situations. So in this case, we're going to be creating agency, customer, and supplier processes, which is different than the default pages in RPM because the processes will allow you to do things that the processes normally allow you to do, like send email reminders, sum up data via reference and tables, and then kind of make nice little metrics with that. But what the integration kind of does is normally if you were to create a process, you have to create those forms automatically, or sorry, not automatically, manually, and then the integration here would actually do the opposite of that for you and do it automatically. So the integration would look to sync your agency, customer, and supplier pages with the processes so that whenever you make a change in either or if you prefer to have it so if you make a change in one, it will send updates to the other or vice versa, anything like that. Pretty much a nice little seamless integration between some pages in RPM that are not normally that seamlessly connected. So if that's a little confusing currently, don't worry, I will jump right into my demo here and give you a example. So what's going to happen is I'm going to go to the top left menu processes, and we're first going to look at the agency process here that I created as a demo. We're going to click into one of these forms. You'll notice that this is the agency Ethan Binder, and then we'll also have a reference in here for that as well. And if I click into that, it'll just take me directly to the agency page. But I've hit back and then look at this. This form here represents the agency and it's inside of a process. So you'll have things like files, actions, notes, notes for staff, and the referenced in things and yeah, and participants and all that stuff. So the idea of creating these things as processes rather than just leaving them as their default pages is that it allows us to really connect them to the different spots of RPM that you might be using to track your CRM, like orders or opportunities. And this gives you a lot of power to create those little nice little table fills that could sum up a lot of that data and create kind of like a master profile or customer profile or supplier profile, agency profile for these pages that seem to be pretty important for a lot of our subscribers. So what this will do is allow you to say table fill all of your orders into a table on your agency form here, and that'll just allow you to sum up all of the ongoing orders. If you can even make multiple tables, you can have ongoing contracts, canceled contracts, contracts that haven't commissioned yet, commissioning contracts, and that stuff can actually happen automatically. Well, automatically in the sense that it'll fill into this table automatically as you make changes to those orders. So the tables could have filter conditions on them, and you can just easily have RPM or whenever you make a change to the order, RPM is going to check those orders whenever you evaluate this form and then update all these tables for you. So you can create this nice little ecosystem for your agencies that just shows you all of those different order contracts, their MRC, their status levels, and really run metrics off of it. Because once they're in the table, you can share as much information from the order into the table itself. So if you're interested in total MRCs that are commissioning, you're going to have that value front and center on this profile here we made for the agency. And you can also do things like contract dates. What's the average install date or install date time for all of these orders for this agency, or if the agency has a hand in doing something and you feel like you waited a long time, you can actually get those metrics by running some calculations on the date fields versus the number of orders. So lots of potential there. I hope I gave okay examples for that, but if you have any ideas and you want to talk to me about it, I'm definitely open to it. But I just wanted to kind of give you a foresight into this, kind of put the idea front and center. So the other thing that might have caught your eye is commission totals at the bottom here. So this is another integration, well, part of the same integration that we kind of discussing now. I'll kind of let you pull in all of the commission data from an agency because we have a call that will pull the total commission values for the agency every time you close your commission runs. So you can pull those runs in as forms and then just have them sum up under this agency here. This you can normally do this already by going to like the agency page. If you want just your totals, you can add the total columns to your agency page and get that information. But what pulling it into a process allows you to do is, again, you can run some calculations on it. So if you wanted to just very quickly, instead of having to pull each of the totals for every month on the agency page, you can have them constantly in here, and then you can just run a variance or do a variance report on that from this table. Or you could do something a little cooler than a variance report. You could even do a leaderboard with your agency. Since all of the commission runs are in here, you can get a total per date even. So you can do things like, oh, show me the last 3 months with the commission totals for this agency, and then put that into a widget, and I'll just shoot out, hey, these are your top 10 agencies for the last quarter, last year, anything like that. So those are some nice ideas with this integration, and also with processes, things you could already normally do with processes if you were using them a lot. But a lot of the times the commission side of RPM and the process side of RPM are a little separate. So this is one of our ways of bridging the gap here. So the other 2 pages that I want to cover briefly are customers and suppliers, which pretty much do the same thing. You have the same options as agency. You can pull in totals for customers, pull in orders for customers, and kind of do like a profile for the customer. Really useful if you say I deal with customers all the time and they call in and they have issues with certain contracts. It's just nice to have all of the customer orders front and center with whatever important information you need. You can also do that currently by going to the customer page and going into orders, but it does require a little jumping around. This might save you a step because you can go into your customer page by searching for it, then just going into this customer, or you can have just a little shortcut on your dashboard that searches for this process in general with a customer name. And then you can view this customer, and this profile can sum up all of the orders, any ongoing commission inquiries, all their locations, contacts, and all that stuff. So you can have all of that information front and center on one page. So it's super convenient for those kind of troubleshooting issues or anything like that. Yeah, so the last one's just suppliers, and this one's probably the simplest of the two. You just do a supplier name, supplier reference. It's just a cleaner way to reference suppliers. You can do the same thing though. You could build a table fill in with a lot of orders, ongoing commission inquiries, all that stuff, and get all those metrics in here. There's one small issue with doing table fill on the supplier though, is that there's a limit for table fills of about 400 rows. So if you have a lot of orders through one supplier, you probably hit the table limit. So you might want to split them out. So you can do something like number of orders in by month, by quarter, and all that stuff, and kind of segment them by date. And eventually they'll just drop into like ongoing order status or anything like that. You can do a lot of filters on those tables as you're filling them in. So you might be able to segment enough of the different order types that you can make use of a full supplier profile. But that's just kind of one example with that. Another thing you can do with a supplier reference, you can relate it to a product and a product category and kind of start building an inventory inside as well. And same thing, you can pull in the actual commission totals from your commissioning side of RPM from the suppliers page directly into your suppliers process, make leaderboards, reconcile, anything like that. So yeah, so now that I gave you a quick demo of those processes, I just want to talk about the integration itself. So the integration would prevent you from having to double enter things. You can currently in your RPM already do this with processes, but the problem is you'd have to manually look through your customers, see that you have 24 customers, create those 24 customers in the customer process manually or by import, and then kind of keep them up to date with each other. And that's pretty much just updating data in 2 spots. Not very practical, take a lot of time, especially as you're growing or if you're already large. But the idea with the integration would be that it would sync it for you automatically, and the price for the integration is $20 a month, but it will allow you to sync all 3 pages, agency, customers, and suppliers. They'll sync anytime you make a change to either or, so you can manage it in either spot, or you can make a workflow thing where you only manage it in one. but it's a little more flexible if you just allow the management of it in both. So in some cases, like for customers or agencies, for example, you would want to say update it here by just changing the name here and update it in your actual reference. And if you were to update the address and all that stuff in here, you could update it here as well if you had like a primary address or primary location for the customer. Kind of make that sync like that, and then it just makes it just a lot more flexible if the integration just handled sync both ways. But you can make rules like I only want us to manage it in the process going forward, which is definitely a good option. If you wanted to manage it just again in this page, I wouldn't recommend that too much because the process side itself will have all of the nice little tables and other information. But if you're interested in the integration, we can definitely discuss the nuances of it and make sure it fits for your workflow. Yeah, I hope that kind of gave you an idea of this add-on, integration add-on for RPM. And if you have any questions about it, or if you wanted to see if you had could apply any other ideas or apply this concept in any other way with RPM or your RPM, just give me a shout at this email right here. So yeah, if you have any, if you like this webinar kind of concept instead of our regular what's new and how to use RPM in different ways webinar, this is kind of one of our newer types of webinars where we're just going to be talking about different ways you can enhance your usage of RPM. If you like this format, please give me an email at this email right here. And if you have any questions or concerns or you don't like this format, you can also email me right here. I'll take any feedback I can get. And yeah, thanks for attending this webinar. Thank you and have a good one.